Om Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishnaya. What life has taught me. Swami Ranganathananda. Chapter 10. Spontaneous appeal of Vedanta and Sri Ramakrishna to the people abroad. One important truth which life has taught me is that India's Vedanta and Sri Ramakrishna appeal directly to many thinking minds in the West through books, without the intervention of any Indian teacher. Vedanta and Sri Ramakrishna go out to any country only on invitation from an individual or a group. During my second lecture tour of Britain in 1976, I was invited by the Anglican Church, Dean of Westminster and his wife, to visit them. I went to them and they took me on a visit to the Westminster Abbey, which has great British historical associations. Later, at the suggestion, I addressed the students of classes 8 to 10 of the very old Westminster High School for about 40 minutes. The students listened with perfect attention, and the headmaster remarked that they were difficult to control in the classroom, but they heard the lecture with perfect attention. Later, the dean and his wife told me that they were then reading with great delight the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. In December 1998, I received the following letter from Sofia, capital of Bulgaria, signed by 3 lovers of Vedanta and Sri Ramakrishna. Sofia, December 1998. Dear Swami Ranganathananda, we are writing on behalf of a group of Bulgarian admirers of Sri Ramakrishna, Swami Vivekananda and the mission to the world. Paying our respects to you and to Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission, we would like to congratulate you for the recent assuming of the President's responsibilities. Please accept also our warmest greetings on occasion of your 90th birthday. Here, your name is well known among the Vedanta friends for your writings, from articles in Prabuddha Bharata to multi-volume sets, always illuminating and serving the needs of the modern man. Wishing you good health, we want to hope that the noble Vedanta ideas will be spread more and more in the world, and that Ramakrishna Mutt and Ramakrishna Mission will continue to expand its influence for the benefit of the humanity. With all our best wishes, yours in the divine, Jordan Zashev, Lyubomir Vuto, Asin Kuldijev. Though born and brought up in Kerala, my feeling of identification was never confined to that one state, but had become national and international. To every state I go for lecture program, I have felt I belong there. The same in the international sphere also. For nearly 15 years, I have gone every year to countries like Holland, Germany, USA, Australia, and Singapore, and the people there also had treated me as belonging to them, and had not only paid for my travel and upkeep, but have also given me freely pranamis or offerings of money, which once went up to nearly 1 lakh of rupees, and which I spent for helping our several service units. When the heart is touched, the pocket opens. The one parting sentence after a program in any town or city had been, "Please come again." That is the blessing coming to a representative of Amar Bharat, eternal India. Chapter 11. Meeting with Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah in Kodaikanal jail. Though not taking part in active politics following Swami Vivekananda's policy for the mission, I had great interest to see that modern India develops a progressive, humanly directed democratic state and administration. I had great interest to see that modern India develops a progressive, humanly directed democratic state and administration. When I was on a lecture tour of Kodaikanal in Tamil Nadu in the 1960s, I learned that Sheikh Muhammad Abdullah of Kashmir was under house arrest in a bungalow very near to the house in which I was staying. In 1947, the British left India after advising the Maharajas or Nawabs of the hundreds of native states in India freedom to affiliate themselves to India or Pakistan. The Maharaja of Kashmir acceded to India, and he was supported by the majority Muslim population of Jammu and Kashmir state, organized by Sheikh Abdullah earlier as the National Conference. This angered Pakistan, which sent crowds of armed tribals to invade Kashmir. India drove them out of the valley, but it still occupies the western mountainous region now known as Pakistan Occupied Kashmir, POK. Therefore, I felt a great desire to see him. I had met him earlier in Gulmarg in 1946 when I went from Karachi to Kashmir. In Gulmarg, I learned that Jawaharlal Nehru, Sheikh Sahib, Maulana Azad, Iftikaruddin of Lahore, and some other national leaders and Indira Gandhi, with her 2 children, were staying in a house arranged by Sheikh Abdullah next to the one in which I was staying as a guest of a Karachi family. They were there to discuss the INA trials then going in Delhi. I walked up to that house and went to Jawaharlalji's room, and he welcomed me and we had a brief conversation. I told him that he had dismissed Vivekananda in one sentence of his book, saying that Vivekananda preached a kind of religious nationalism. Have I done so? Jawaharlalji asked. I said yes. Then he said that he had changed his estimate of Swamiji, that he had opportunity to read many of his works during his imprisonment in the Ahmednagar jail, and that new estimate will appear in his new book, Discovery of India, then being printed in a Calcutta press. I left him with thanks and joined the tea party given by Sheikh Abdullah to the national leaders. On return to Karachi, I purchased a copy of Discovery of India and was happy to find 5 pages of high appreciation devoted to Swami Vivekananda and similar appreciation to Sri Ramakrishna, Adi Shankaracharya and others. Rooted in the past and full of pride in India's heritage, Vivekananda was yet modern in his approach to life's problems, and he was a kind of bridge between the past of India and the present. Later on in 1949, as Prime Minister speaking on Sri Ramakrishna in Delhi, he exhorted all Indian youths to read at least 2 books of Vivekananda, namely Lectures from Colombo to Almora and Letters of Vivekananda. Rooted in the past and full of pride in India's heritage, Vivekananda was yet modern in his approach to life's problems. He was a kind of bridge between the past of India and the present. Later on, in 1949, as Prime Minister, speaking on Sri Ramakrishna in Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru exhorted all Indian youths to read at least 2 books of Vivekananda, namely Lectures from Colombo to Almora and Letters of Swami Vivekananda. With this earlier thought background, I took permission from the Tamil Nadu government to go and meet Sheikh Abdullah. I walked to his house and the security guard led me to the ground floor hall, and Sheikh Sahib came down and we met sitting face to face. I told him, "This is not the place for you. Your place is in the Union Ministry in Delhi." He replied, "But the political rogues in Delhi have kept me confined here." I said, "There must be some reason for it. They were all one with you before. You also, as Prime Minister of Kashmir, have imprisoned political leaders." He said, "India must discuss Kashmir with Pakistan and Kashmir." I said, "It is best that Kashmir and India join together and then discuss Kashmir with Pakistan." He said, "That cannot be." Then I said, "From what I learn from newspaper reports, you may be kept here for your lifetime. I don't like that." The sanctioned 20-minute talks continued by now for 2 hours. He went to his room upstairs and soon returned, and the talks continued for another 2 hours in the same strain, frank and straight. When he had gone up, the security officer told me that he had never heard anyone talking to him so freely and frankly, and he responding similarly. After the 4-hour stop, finding that I had to catch the train to Madras and meet Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan there, I stood up to leave. He put his hand on my back and moved me a few feet away from the security officer and asked me in a sweet voice, "Have you brought me any message from the Delhi higher-up?" I replied, "No, I have come to you on my own. I love you and respect you. I would be happy to see you as a union minister and not confined to Kashmir." I told him, "From Calcutta I shall send you some important books of Swami Vivekananda. He was a great lover of Kashmir and its people." He said, "I will be glad to read them." He also said, "When you meet Dr. Radhakrishnan, please convey to him my highest regards. He is the only sensible person in the union establishment." I replied, "Yes, I shall do so." Then I returned to Madras, met Dr. Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan and conveyed to him what Sheikh wanted and said about him. On receiving the promised books from me through Ramakrishna Mission Institute of Culture, Calcutta, Sheikh Abdullah wrote to me a sweet letter saying, "I was deeply touched by your visit. I am reading the books. I was deeply touched by your visit. I am reading the books." After he was released some months later, there was a perceptible change in him. And in the elections that followed, he expressed a national attitude and not regional in his election speeches. And today his son Farooq Abdullah is continuing it in a firmer national attitude and policy. We too have warm feelings for each other. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanam.